God's Legion by J. T. Dowdy. Chapter 23. In the frustration known as my eternal existence, I long for one thing more than any other, to be my own person. Nothing is more damaging to an individual's psyche than being labeled by a society, whether there is truth in their labeling or not. Yet, can anyone truly define themselves without the use of language, which, as we all know, is inherently limited in the amount of information that can be disseminated and absorbed at any one time? To have language is to accept the social and cultural definitions of words and phrases. For a functioning society, the majority of people in said society must accept the definitions of their culture. Yet, how rare is it to find an individual who truly understands the rules of their own language and can use it effectively, hence my issues with it. I challenge anyone to exist in a world without language. Should such a person be able to do so, then they would have my sincere admiration and respect, for even I am forced to limit myself with the definitions of words. Excerpt from An Existence Without Language by creator Malik Taus. Lucifer and Jehovah were looking over one of the many bookshelves in the Legion Master's private quarters, while the wounded Aemon lay on a bed propped up by many embroidered cushions. The angel had a flash-cloned leg barely attached and was undergoing the painful process of limb reintegration. His nerve endings boiled with fiery pain as nanites went about their jobs with mute focus. Medical equipment beeped and whirred as they administered new blood and fluids to replace what was lost and clean what remained. The Centurion had not allowed his adopted father to fix his mangled leg, as he claimed the accident was one of his own making, by letting his anger cloud his better judgment. Instead, the angel closed his eyes in meditation to assist the nanites by forcing his vessel to undergo rapid cell division. Athena had summoned Odin, who brought along Brunhilde. Bast had returned, and Elohim would have been there if there were not matters of state requiring his immediate attention. All in all, Lucifer and Delia's room had become quite crowded with individuals trusted to not be traitors. The list of such beings was depressingly small when considering just how many true beings of spirit there were in creation. There were a few others who were trusted, but they were busy doing their own thing and would receive notes from Morana when the meeting had been finished. Bast had been growing frustrated with the uncomfortable silence, accented only by the beeping of Aemon's machines, and whispered, "Sure would be nice if someone explained just what is going on." "Go on," Lucifer replied, gesturing to Jehovah as he continued his search for whatever it was he was looking for in his mighty collection. Jehovah said, "Samael, who turns out is not a complete traitor, was given a note with orders to—" "Ha!" Bast laughed unkindly to interrupt. "You are going to lecture us about traitors? You sit in your higher dimension, demonizing the rest of us while conspiring with Considering she lives with you, I say you also support Ahura Mazda and her ridiculous goals. Why exactly are you here in the first place?" Jehovah's entire demeanor changed from that of an uninterested observer to one of infinite amusement. "Judge not, lest ye be judged, child. Are you really sure you know who I am, and more importantly, what team I am playing for?" Lucifer selected a book from one of his bottom shelves before making a production of blowing dust from it. "Here we are," he said, handing an ancient yellowed tome to Odin. He looked to Bast and said, "You of all people should know the value of not judging one of our kind by how we look, or in his case, by our actions." "I am growing tired of these games of yours, Lucifer," Bast said with a snarl. "Why don't you make things simple for a change?" All eyes turned to the Legion Master, who frowned, as if debating what to say. Finally he spoke. "Who in this room besides me, Morana, Aemon, and Jehovah have met Gnosis from the 11th dimension? Do any of you know what he looks like?" "How could we?" Bast said. "According to the rest of you older folk, he is a hermit who never leaves his home. Come to think of it, how could anyone but you see him? None of the rest of us can visit such a place and remain sane." "A fair point," Lucifer agreed, shrugging. "Gnosis is the only creator to inhabit the 11th dimension. In fact, he is the only technically living being to reside there, period. One could argue he is the 11th dimension. Do any of you know why?" Blank stares confirmed those who knew from those who did not. Lucifer idly slapped Jehovah's rising hand down. "Gnosis was created by, it doesn't really matter, but the reason he was made does. It was created to be a living record of knowledge in the event creation suffered some cataclysmic catastrophe and needed to be rebuilt. Like, say, oh, I don't know, someone actually being able to best my legion and descend creation into chaos. Someone like the one who is controlling "What do you mean, controlling Odin asked. "Exactly what I said, brother. Have you ever known to be capable of independent thought? He is incredibly powerful, and he wields absolute dominion in his verse. Yet, he has never once attempted to venture out from his universe in the past. Never. And yet now, all of the sudden, he is having delusions of becoming the supreme being by killing anyone who would refuse to submit. Does that strike any of you as odd, or is it just me? Then, who do you think is running this convoluted show?" Beast asked. "Baal," Lucifer and Jehovah said at the exact same time, though Jehovah pronounced the name as "some chose to," with its hyphen. The wounded angel's eyes opened as his body stiffened at the name. Baal was a myth. Everyone had heard the name, but not a single being of spirit could ever say they have met him in person. Mortals with delusions of power and insatiable appetites loved him as he encouraged cannibalistic behavior and the terrorizing of those deemed too weak to do anything about it. His culture was one of pain and slaughter, the like of which Shaitan could only imitate poorly. Odin opened the ancient book in his hands to stare blankly at a language he was unfamiliar with. "So, what does this thing have to do with any of what you just said?" he asked. "I cannot read this." "I'm getting there," Lucifer replied. "Be patient or you will strain your eye. Now then, Gnosis is neither male or female. How could it be, since the embodiment of all knowledge is simply what it is? Knowledge." Odin nodded his head. "I think I am following you now. Is seeking knowledge to destroy your legion and set himself up as ruler. And let me guess, he cannot speak with this Gnosis character directly, can he?" Lucifer held up a hand while shaking his head. "That last part is not entirely true," he said. "Gnosis is a living entity, and therefore has free will like the rest of us. It is the rules someone put in place which keep him from answering questions directly in the event an individual like finds out how to access the 11th dimension. Gnosis, being a being of knowledge, does seek to educate the ignorant. It cannot help itself in that regard." "How?" Bast asked. "You said he had restraints in place to keep such a thing from happening." "I did, but Gnosis found a way around this by allowing madmen to speak in riddles." The room went quiet as everyone who didn't know stared at the Legion Master as if he had gone mad. He sighed. "Anything said in prophecy by individuals not of itself? Oh, come on, guys. Did you think Gnosis would not find a way to speak? Have none of you wondered how a being like that would ever be able to speak to people if it could not do so directly. Brunhilde mumbled from her corner as she looked at the page written in seeming gibberish in her All-Father's hands. The rest of us have important things to do. Bast narrowed her eyes in suspicion as she pointed to the book still in Odin's hands. Are you telling us that book is filled with such inane babble? Lucifer grinned and said, Not even close, my dear. Said book, which I had Samael deliver to is the second and only other copy in existence. It is written in a made-up language by a monk long ago. His monastery had strict rules governing sin. As a cloistered man, being still a man, he wrote the single most graphic and disturbing erotica I have ever read. And no one but Gnosis and I know what the words on the pages say. The Empire's head god leaned forward to place her head in her hands and groan as she was not following any of the conversation. How in the hell does this help any of us? Odin tapped at his bronze eye patch with a finger until he began to smile. I see now. This ploy of yours buys us time, yes? Will be unable to translate the book quickly, if at all, and he would be forced to do so if Samael claimed you said the book contained secrets about the Legion or you yourself. Even if he thinks this might be a trick, he would have to spend time deciphering it, and he would be forced to do it himself, because, in the event the information was correct, he would never want anyone else knowing about it. Lucifer gave a mocking half-bow in what space he could. Precisely, he said, especially if said information was to have been written by God himself. Perhaps maybe even something older than God. Bast began to chuckle to herself as she caught on to the game. That is rather devious. You planted those rumors about your parents for just such an emergency, didn't you? Guilty as charged, Lucifer replied, grinning ear to ear. Of course, there is technically the possibility of something equal or greater than me. Something so alien as to be unknowable, but I have never seen even a shred of evidence to support this. Seen, being the key word here. I have felt things which I do not understand, so the possibility is still there. As the room went quiet, while some of them absorbed and thought their way through the new information, Lucifer spoke in Athena's mind. I am surprised you did not bring up who Jehovah really is. Her answering reply was condescending. Do you think me that stupid? Though I tend to agree with you now that he is probably a traitor, it would be best if he was not actively working against us full time. I am fairly sure he knows that we suspect him. Lucifer could feel the mental equivalent of his sister rolling her eyes as she argued. Then just kill him and get it over with. And lose the chance to pass disinformation to the other side from a source they trust. Please don't be dense. If it comes to that, we can flip a coin on which one of us will do it. I'll even let you tell me you told me so. God's sister snorted in her mind and said, I was going to do that anyway. All right, Odin said out loud, breaking the silence as he put the heavy book back on one of the shelves. You have bought us some time. How much we do not know, but it is better than where we were before. Shaitan is not going to be a problem for a while, if ever again. He was not completely destroyed, the Legion Master replied. There is a way he could theoretically be brought back, and since it was my fault I did not finish the job, I will handle that. Bast, if you could begin work on securing your corner of space with the Brahmana Vata, that would help enormously. I have already begun, she stated. Thank you. Jehovah has already agreed to maximize his economy for war material. Athena, I have already asked our resident succubus if she could begin bringing over more of her sisters. Could you do the same on a larger scale with the Enclave? Gaia's verse is starting to become overrun because of her stupid policies. If we could begin salvaging whoever we can from there, we could plug them into holes in the lines elsewhere." "Sure," Athena said. "Celeron and his people would join because I asked. I'll do some shopping on the others. I warn you, though, there will not be as many groups as you are hoping unless Gaia is willing to return to the colors." "I spoke with her about that." "She is willing." "What about me?" Odin asked. "What could I do to help? I cannot offer military aid as of right now because of the damage the host caused." "Your traders go to higher dimensions. Could you have them send reports of first creation incursions? We need to get a better picture of where and how they are crossing over from their prison. It would be even better if we knew exactly how they were crossing over. Get with On and Kai to see what they might know on the subject. My people are working overtime, pulling every non-aligned nations we can to deny extra military might, to err on our back doors. We are all going to be busy for a while, I am afraid. As boring as it will be in the long run for us, I think regular meetings to go over current events would do us all good. Any objections to that idea?" None had any, as the idea of a war council was a good one. One by one, the other creators left the room until there was only Lucifer and his centurion. The angel did not want to risk trying to move his leg just yet, and so he just sat there and folded his arms. "Boss," he asked, as the Legion Master was moving to the door, "why did you let him overhear this conversation?" he asked, because Marana had told him of the Legion Master's suspicions concerning Gnosis. It was one of the reasons he had charged off to try and settle matters on his own, back on Hell. "Because, while I believe Gnosis is working against us, I do not believe Jehovah is. I have no doubt he would, if I were to shun him after working so closely with him for so long. I know you hate him, but the Dominion of Zion and the Legion have always been close. They're the same person. No, they are not. Gnosis exists in the 11th dimension because he is trapped there and cannot leave, just as I am outside of my creation. Because of the limitations my sister and I placed on him, he also cannot directly talk with people. He wanted to do so, and so he made a new facet of himself like we did, and thrust it into my creation, thinking it would act like a remote-controlled puppet and be bound to his will. Funny thing about perception, son. Once part of your soul experiences things differently than the whole, it makes its own personality. Take Yahweh and myself. We are the same person in the same sense as Jehovah and Gnosis. But we are also different entities because I experienced things differently than he did. Souls are a complicated business, son. Just leave that stuff to me and trust that I have a plan." Aemon nodded as he closed his eyes to concentrate on his leg, and was yet again glad he was just a simple soldier who did not have to deal with the convoluted things his adopted father had to. Epilogue. Lucifer looked to be asleep as he sat with head bowed in the rearmost section of pews in a large church on a mining world known as Henschel's Big Score. His breathing was slow enough as to be non-existent, as he tried not to snore at the sermon being delivered by a matronly-looking priest with iron-grey hair, and, despite her advanced age, fully alert and intelligent eyes. One person was snoring in the corner opposite the Legion Master, while others were failing to stifle their yawns. The whole congregation was fidgeting in their seats, as if they all had better things to do. Seeing the obvious reluctance in today's congregation, the priest cut her sermon short while reciting the benediction of the way to dismiss the somber crowd. The priest shook the hand of every departing parishioner, while calling them by name to bless them individually. When she was finished with her task, she found the sole remaining figure in the church and sat next to him, but not too close as to appear impious. "Can I help you, my son?" the priest asked in a low voice. Lucifer snorted. "Please," he said, opening his eyes to look at the wizened figure next to him. "My boots are older than you are, Mary Ann." The priest laughed as she twisted in her wooden seat to casually throw her arm over the back of the pew. "Well, they do say hoarders never like to get rid of their things. So tell me, what did Bast have to do to get quarters on your ship?" The ancient being smiled and asked, "Does everyone know my itinerary these days?" The priest's eyes twinkled as she said, "Why would I tell? You don't call or write, and you only come around when you want something from me." "Sorry, I have been a bit busy as of late." Yes, if sampling the goods is considered a bit busy. When I saw you walk in, I thought gravity was going to stop working on this dirt ball for a moment. "I just can't win today," the ancient being complained, before his frown deepened. "Do you have anything to drink in here?" "I'm waiting for old Crondall to make another batch of wine." "I don't know," the priest said, tugging on her chin with one hand. "This world is relatively poor. Perhaps if you were to donate to my church's coffers, I just might be able to come up with something." Lucifer's cascade of laughter caused the many silver-robed acolytes to turn their heads and stare. He handed the priest a solid bar of pure platinum he conjured out of thin air, and she made it disappear inside of her purple vestments. Nodding, she turned to look at one of the acolytes and raised her voice. "Lacus, come here, please." The indicated acolyte dutifully came closer and bowed his head while casting a wary eye to the ancient-looking legionnaire sitting glumly on the pew. "Yes, Mother?" he said. Mother being an honorific title. "Bring me one of the bottles of wine in the refectory, please." The altar boy looked confused as he said, "But Mother, we only blessed enough for tonight's service." Marianne sighed, and it was a gesture she looked quite accustomed to. "I can always bless more, boy. Now, go get me a bottle." As the robed figure hurried to obey, the priest called out to his retreating form, "And Lacus, don't forget some glasses. This is a house of God, in case you had forgotten. It would not do to act like heathens when under his gaze." Lacus turned around to bow awkwardly, before scurrying off at speed before the priest could assign him more work. Lucifer snorted at the joke the acolyte could never have figured out. "How is he doing?" he asked. The priest nodded approvingly and replied, "He still has much to learn about the wider universe, but he is coming along quite nicely. Several of the local girls are making advances, and the poor guy has no clue. It's so much fun watching them all but rip their clothes off while he just blunders on ahead. Lacus even has several off-world abbots who would like to take him under their wing in a few more years for his novitiate. You must come back tonight if you can. The boy has a most wonderful singing voice. See if you can ship him off as quickly as you can with the girl you think would be best for him. It might keep them out of the upcoming civil war." "Again, didn't we just finish with the last one?" The Legion Master nodded. "My sentiments exactly. However, this time it is not being done on my orders, and this time it looks like my siblings will have outside help. And Baal is moving again." The priest's eyes narrowed as she asked, "Outside help?" She never once questioned the involvement of the mythical being, because she had fought against his people long ago. Lacus returned with 2 wine glasses and no bottle for refills. He handed one first to the Mother Superior, then the other to Lucifer, before quickly finding work in another part of the church. Lucifer took a drink and smiled as the wine was sweeter than normal. It was a nice change. he continued. The outside party is granting angels and mortals the ability to move between the webway, along with granting other creators strength far beyond what they should have. Ahura Mazda can completely overpower Jehovah. I shouldn't need to remind you that is impossible, given who he really is. Marianne tossed her head back to whistle loudly before taking a drink. Couldn't you do that as well? She asked. Lucifer shrugged. Sure, but why would I want to? Doing so goes against all the rules the old creators agreed upon, and all of us old and vain monsters are frightfully jealous of anyone not of our kind having such power. So either someone is no longer playing by the rules, or it is someone new and from the outside. The priest shook her head. You are conveniently leaving out the third option, she said. I would rather not think about them until it is proven they exist, Lucifer replied. We both know they have to, since things do not just spontaneously appear out of thin air, least of all you. Never mind those echoes in the webway we both hear. Marianne tossed her head back to drain her glass in one long pull. When finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and sighed. Let me guess, she complained. You are going to recall me to active duty, even though it is not my turn. Lucifer crossed his arms and nodded. I'll do it. On one condition or no deal. Name it? A wicked smile, unbefitting of a member of the clergy, crossed the ancient woman's lips. I want a baton out of that squeaky chair, so he can sweat in the field with us. Lucifer's laughter filled the church again. Oh, he said, stifling a fit of giggles. That chair is hardly as comfortable as you think, which you would know if you would not push that particular duty off on someone else. But anyway, it has already been taken care of. Everyone who is able is joining us in the field. Some of you geriatric retired folk need the exercise and practice. Us! The woman laughed as she tossed her empty glass to the Legion Master. Give me a moment to get dressed, will you? Us venerable people take longer to get ready with each passing year. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Lucifer artfully held his tongue as he sipped his wine. The priest rose to her feet after what looked to be considerable effort, and a too loud pop came from one of her protesting knees. She moved slowly to a small painted door behind the sacristy's plain altar and unlocked it with a key held on a slender chain about her neck. The Legion Master tracked down another acolyte to bring more wine as he waited for the church's priest to return. He was downing his third glass of the too-sweet liquid when he heard the telltale lumbering steps of the vanguard liquid metal armor, with the accompanying musical chimes of tens of thousands of rattling honor chains. When the priest returned from wherever she had gone, she was no longer an old, frail woman. Her face and body had changed to the ravishing beauty she once was. Her hair was golden orange like a sunset, and her blue eyes looked to be the color of the outside sky. Were it not for the woman's angelic amounts of honor chains, an onlooker would have seen an ancient sigil of an open book with a chain flail used as a bookmark. The woman's armor was painted in the colors of the Legion. Well, would have been, were it not for universes' worth of hard use. A long, two-handed flanged mace with a head easily weighing over 100 pounds thumped to the ground as the woman twirled in a circle to show off her ancient armor like she wore a new dress for date. How do I look, Father? The jingling of her armor and chains drew the attention of the acolytes, who all looked on with awed expressions. The Legion Master's grin almost touched his eyes as he rose to his feet. Just like the good old days, Lilith, he said. And with you leading your order again, oh, what fun this coming war will be. Oh, I almost forgot. Odin, Elohim, and Bast are wanting to put together some kind of a task force to hunt down and get rid of the demons infesting their territory before the show heats up. Could you handle that for me? Sure, came Lilith's slow reply as she searched her memory for the names of people she wanted to work with. But I get to choose the members, and don't you try to foist off some green horns on me. The Legion Master placed his right hand on his heart. I promise you will get to choose your own people. Lilith was no fool. She knew there would be some interesting complications, or her father would never have asked her to handle the matter. Fine, she agreed, glumly. Just do me a favor, Kay. Let me get the group established before you start sending me people. Just one. One Norman Sebastian Adelson Kant will be born in the host ascendancy in about 2 years, and it will take a pinch under 300 before he joins you after that on some run-down host backwater. I have great plans for him in the Legion, Lilith. The first being God ever made rolled her eyes at the prospect of working with some stuffy, brainwashed zealot from the host. Great. Sounds like he is going to be so much fun to be around. Why is he important to us? The Legion Master rose to his feet while moving to an end table to set the wine glasses down. He held out his hands while walking to the front door, as if he did not know. I am hoping he makes the choices which will put him in a position to be your new apprentice, to take some of the load off of your work. He grinned where she could not see, and took on a mocking tone. But if you don't need any help. Lilith's answering reply was quick. I said nothing. Just checking. Oh, I almost forgot again. Wow, I really must be getting old. Lucifer turned around to toss a small sack to his first maid. She caught the sack and opened it to look inside. There were badges that would produce a waist-up hologram of the bearer, along with floating text. The female creator saw the badges were all named. Wow, thanks, she said acidly. Just what I always wanted. I thought I could pick my own people. You absolutely can. Catch you later. As the Legion Master vanished into the webway to go wherever his next destination was, Lilith took out the rest of the badges and looked at their names. She smiled, as the names belonged to the exact people she had already made up her mind to ask first. Lacus! She bellowed, so the acolyte could hear her wherever he was in the church. He immediately poked his head around a corner with a chastised expression on his face for being caught eavesdropping. Yes, Mother, Creator Lilith. Come with me. We are going to see Sophina and her parents. The scarlet color the young man's face turned at the notion confirmed Lilith's suspicion at his nightly rendezvous. Splash some water on that rat's nest you call hair and run a comb through it. You are getting married and sent to your novitiate, and I am going to go kill some demons as soon as you get hitched. Married? The young man stammered. Lilith's grin was almost evil. Sophina is really pretty, and she would make you an excellent wife. But if you're not man enough to stand up in public and kiss her after I say a few words and dare anyone to fight me about it, it's okay. Some men just aren't cut out to have a loving woman in their life. Hey, I know just the thing to prove your manhood. You can come fight demons with me. Though, I really have been lax in teaching you how to shoot, and your skills with a sword are not what anyone would call decent. You will probably be torn apart and eaten alive, and well, being eaten butt first while you watch and scream is really no fun. I will make sure you get a nice headstone and say lots of good things about you at your funeral. Maybe we can even find the pieces of your body to bring back to your folks so they can have some closure. She sighed theatrically as she picked up her massive mace to swing up and onto her shoulder. The air whooshed as it parted. All right, since you're so dead set on being a bachelor, go get your weapons. The acolyte had grown as pale as paper. He swallowed hard as his imagination ran away with itself about being devoured by demons. I'll marry Sophina. Lilith let her mace roll off of her shoulder to where the head crashed into the floor to produce a deep thud like a judge's gavel the acolyte could feel through his boots. Excellent, my son. Let's go tell the lucky lady and family the good news.